So we're ready to start, everyone?
Yes, Anna, please go ahead.
So welcome to Microlink's Great Change, Great Women webinar series. We're very excited today to have the wonderful Kate Nash. Hello, Kate.
Hey, hi Anna.
Lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about Kate. Her biography is very impressive. So it's Kate Nash, OBE, is the creator and CEO of PurpleSpace. Established in 2015, it is the world's only professional development membership hub for disability employee resource groups and networks. PurpleSpace delivers leadership know-how in ERG and network leaders and is the go-to global community of disability ERG network leaders across all sectors. The community of change agents was born by demand following the publication of Kate's book, Secrets and Big News in 2014. PurpleSpace leads the Purple Light Up, a worldwide digital movement to encourage disability employee networks across the globe to go purple in the run-up to the UN International Day of Persons with Disabilities. The purpose is to celebrate the economic contribution of disabled employees. She is external advisor to GSK's Global Disability Council, strategic disability advisor to the Post Office, disability advisor to Fujitsu, judge on Shaw Trust Power 100 list, and a member of the UK government's Ministers' Disability Confidence Business Leaders Group. In 2007, she was awarded an OBE for services to disabled people, and my goodness, didn't she deserve it? After all that. So we're now going to just do a little bit of housekeeping. There'll be a Q&A at the end, so please put any questions you have in the chat and we'll address those in the Q&A section. Please be respectful to others. We want everyone to feel welcome, safe and respected. Our accessibility features are a captioning service by Interact Streamer. If you want to have your captions, switch on the captioning at the bottom of the Zoom screen, closed captioning, and show subtitles. And you can follow the conversation on social media with hashtag Great Change, Great Women. So now I hand over to NASA.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of our wonderful series, Great Change, Great Women. I'm absolutely delighted, thrilled, and excited and nervous all together, having Kate Nash, the famous Kate Nash, to be with us today. She's an amazing host for so many webinars and so many network meetings, and I just feel rather out of my depth here. So I know she'll take care of me today. I won't embarrass myself. But she's an amazing speaker. And obviously, all the what Anna read is only a tip of the iceberg about this lady. The first time I met Kate was interesting. I Googled her and I saw Kate Nash, the singer. Only when I met her, I realized she was a bigger superstar than that Kate Nash, the fake one. So and ever since, I've been absolutely awed by her knowledge, her passion, and the influence she's got is unbelievable. You know, she can talk to the CEOs of the multinationals or the chairmen of these, FTSE 500, 200 companies, or 100, or a Fortune 500. And she can do that at ease and make them feel really part of the family. And what she's achieved over the past, particularly in the past 2-3 years with the Purple Light Up, is unbelievably impressive. I mean, just having so many cities, capital cities in the world, light up purple on the same day, no one would have believed that could be done by this lady. And I think I'm really so delighted she accepted our invitation to be the first guest on this show. We want to give our dear friend and our leader, Kate, the opportunity to talk a bit about herself and what she's achieved and basically her story. So, Kate, my darling, take it away.
Wow, how lovely an introduction. Can't we just sit here and I can hear you say those lovely things? I joke. It would look, let me just say, it was a real pleasure to say yes. We love the work of Microlink and I really adore what you're doing with this series. So it was an easy yes. So thank you for the invitation. Anna, take it away.
So our first question is,
Yeah.
What do you spend most of your time doing?
Whoa, Great question. What I spend most of my time doing? Well, like many of us, we live in this supercharged digital era. COVID has brought so many challenges to so many of us as global citizens, and therefore not everybody's working life, particularly those on the front line. But for many of us, we now have to conduct our working life, looking into each other's homes and delivering our richness and our goodness through our working life. So most of my time is about supporting and building the PurpleSpace community, which just grows and grows. We now have 1,000 members across 130 organisations, many of them large global multinationals. And they all, at their hearts, want to build disability confidence from the inside out. So that's what we support them to do. I spend a lot of time, of course, with our core staff team. I do lots of writing in terms of our collateral about how you build inner confidence and our networkology range. So I do all of that, and then a bit of gardening if I have time. If there's any
well, now it's spring, so now you can go at least get outside, because it's been a long winter, hasn't it? It has. I've really felt it. First lockdown, fabulous. This one's been a bit of a challenge, but the end is nigh. So next question is, what was your entry point into the world of disability inclusion?
My entry point goes back many, many years. When I was a teenager, the expression, the personal is political, and it was ever thus, Anna. So for me, the die was cast when, as a teenager of 15, I acquired my own disability, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis or Still's disease. And, I went from running around the hockey pitch, not that I liked hockey, but what a way to get out of it. I acquired, a significant disability, lots of pain, discomfort, immobility, and, lots and lots of time in hospital. And I suppose when I came out of that, and then I managed to get university, and I knew that I wanted to work in being helpful and useful, I suppose, in helping individuals to navigate difficult experiences of disability and mental ill health. But I also wanted to do something about what, even that, I never called it the soft bigotry of low expectation, but I certainly noticed people around me thinking and feeling different thoughts about my value as a human being. And, this was years before the Disability Discrimination Act. So, I kind of wanted to change the world. That was my entry point, having my own personal experiences, seeing how the world was ill designed around us.
Right.
And wanting to do something, to support the government to improve the legislative backdrop, but then support employers to notice and value purple talent. And then beyond that, to support people with disability to feel jolly good about themselves and their talent and their skills. So that was my entry point.
So you had a plan right from, well, I suppose it was a lived experience, and then it just evolved from that. It was like, well, if I'm going through this, there must be many other.
True. We know this. Our gifts are often our, weaknesses. Yes. And I did have a plan. I think for me, I knew that I needed to use my time wisely, because for me, my life was likely to be characterised by having discomfort and pain and immobility, and I didn't want to be frustrated by that. So I needed to get a wiggle on. So planning comes quite easily for me. I work very purposefully. That drives my team around the twist, but that's what I do.
But there's structure. There's structure. You can always fill the walls, and you know where you are. So what has changed for you over the last year?
Wow, again, I love your questions. Well, what has changed? I suppose everything and nothing is how I would answer that. Everything in that, most of my working life and the work that we do at PurpleSpace, although most of our members now, not all, but a good number of them are global multinationals, have a footprint in many parts of the world. Nonetheless, physically, I was based in London, and I'd be running around meeting our members and our clients and holding events and supporting our members to get together and learn from each other, share best practice, share hints and tips, developing our maturity model. And it was quite busy and frenetic, but what's changed for me now, I'm now in our home in Mumbles, just west of Swansea on the Gower Peninsula. So I feel very privileged that I live in a beautiful part of the world.
Beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, and the sea is just down the bottom of my road. So things have changed dramatically like everybody else in terms of how I live, and that's brought both opportunities as well as real challenge, because we have to think deeply about, are we doing the right things in the right way with the right people? You know, are we doing what we need to do? So although everything has changed, at the same time, we must be hopeful and expectant that not just the UK, but other countries will navigate their way out of this slowly and over time.
We have to.
We have to, and therefore we have to be ready to, you know, whilst some plans have just frozen in time, and some have had to be aborted, and, you know, some have just changed shape. Yes. The reality is work still needs to be done. So so everything and nothing is how I would answer that, Anna.
Okay. This is a good one. How have you used the COVID lockdown to productively advance PurpleSpace? Because I know you've been up to some things.
Yeah. So I mostly how we've used it is by accelerating our digital flight path. You know, PurpleSpace was already on a trajectory of delivering most of our services online. And as I say, although we would have the occasional meeting or event or conference in London, the reality was, because of our community, because the Purple Light Up has linked up network leaders, employee resource group leaders, allies and champions from across the world, we were already thinking deeply about how we can improve the delivery of our services by digital means. So yes, that's about downloadable publications and assets and collateral.
And they're beautiful. They're beautiful presentation. I mean, I've got all of them, and they're so well done. And we'll be sending out links at the end for everybody to have a look at these resources. So
it's very kind of you to say, Anna. And, you know, the support that we've had from Microlink over the years, and our dear friend NASA has supported us to create those assets. So we're very grateful to those. But so mostly it was really about accelerating those plans. Anna, it was about reflecting that although we know the world will right itself, the reality is, for some industries and some sectors, things have fundamentally changed. And, you know, I personally can't see anytime soon that our members will want to bring together large gatherings of people. And of course, you know, there's tensions and there's opportunities with our community. You know, on the one hand, travel, which was always a challenge for some of our members, you know, traveling across large cities, etc. They can get together. So mostly we've used it as a moment to regroup and think about everything we do to deliver by digital means.
Yeah, we have as well as an organisation. You know, I've become far more productive because I'm not rushing around and going. And I know NASA has. You're not going to unmute yourself and join in, Nash, and say how productive you've become.
Well, there's no options available for productivity. You have to keep yourself busy, and if you believe in something and you have the passion, great time, no distraction.
Yep.
And we've definitely made a lot of changes, which is not just good for us, but good for our clients, because we need to live in realistically, we need to live in a sustainable world. And most people view, unfortunately, they view disability as a kind of a liability and onerous thing to do, whereas we want to prove to them it isn't anything like that. And this is why I find all the work that PurpleSpace has done is enormously help the conversation to bring the positive about disability. And hopefully what we are offering to our cohorts, our clients, is all about practical ways to overcome these barriers, which are no different to pre-COVID, post-COVID. So, but I'm really excited about the future, absolutely.
What challenges have you faced as an organisation? Have you faced any?
Yes, without a doubt. And I mean, we're a really small team with a really big ambition. You know, ultimately our higher purpose is to make it easier for people to feel good about themselves, when they navigate experiences of disability and ill health. And of course, we do that via the delivery of great know-how to ERG leaders and network leaders. We support them with our Networkology Academy range of tools. We help them to be great leaders. These are individuals who, what I often say is they have proper jobs, so they don't come from D&I or HR. And I say that tongue in cheek. I suppose what we mean is that they're the fuel, they're the passion, they are the energy to support organisations to go further and to go faster when it's about building a better working world and to build disability inclusion into the heart of the business. So our challenges, yes, we've had challenges, of course. We are small, we are growing like Topsy. I infamously said at launch in 2015 that we were an experiment. Well, after 6 years, we've proven, we're well past that now. And our challenge is about, making sure we do things in the right way at the right time, not running too fast. There's so many ideas that we could explore. And also the intensity, again, like all of us, well, there's been lots of gains through COVID, no traveling, and for me, jumping in and out of taxis, not that I do jumping very elegantly, but all of that sort of sometimes unproductive time that we have spent can now be worked productively. But that brings challenge too around
overworking
too much. Exactly. And we're not alone in that. I'm not alone in that. My team, my phenomenal team, they're just amazing. So that's the greatest challenge, is constantly making sure that we remain healthy and productive, and we prune the roses, and look after our loved ones.
Go for walks and get off the screen sometimes.
Kate, what is the biggest change you've seen in the past 5 years?
In terms of what? In terms of
maybe attitudes, cultures, transformation of businesses, really embracing disability and understanding the value and the positive contribution?
I think the biggest, or twofold. I think one change is we don't often have to talk about the business case anymore. That's proven. We don't talk, infamously, Susan will often say, Susan Scott Parker, we don't have to keep stating the business case on why it's important to recruit women. Your wonderful program, Great Change, Great Women. So it's the same with the disability case. We that used to be a constant feature of our work in supporting businesses to know that this was important 20 years ago, the business case. Now we almost don't need that, because it's proven. I think the second real change is how we're seeing employees with disability to really lean into their careers, to feel part of the solution, to feel able to share openly and with strength, their experiences of disability and ill health and neurodiversity. And they want to support others that come along the way too. So it's by sharing our stories and networking and building community and feeling sassy. And that texture is altogether different. So that's the biggest change. I like to think that we have played a fairly important contribution in making that easier for people, but ultimately we would have gotten there anyway. So that's the biggest change.
But I think the confidence you've instilled in people is unbelievable, because I've been involved with disability for nearly 30 years, but I see the past 5 years, the conversation has moved on to actually what great things we can achieve together, recognizing the positive, the talent, the kind of all the energy that disabled people can bring to the organization. And you're absolutely right. I think your movement has brought that about, because having the confidence to talk to each other, try to find solutions in groups, is just what the organizations needed to actually have the positive conversation. So I will give you the award for, obviously, apart from everything else, for giving people voice.
Well, I thank you for that, Nash. We have played a role. We are, one of the cogs in the system. But, I think sometimes movements come of age, And I think that the disability movement has come of age.
Yes.
And that's partly because so many of us have been working systematically to drive that change. So, you know, the microlinks of this world, being able to support businesses to think really creatively about the need for them to deliver the right adjustments, you know, routinely as part of the business. You know, the work of Business Disability Forum, you know, delivering that whole organisational approach to change. So, you know, it's when the stars line up. It's when the stars line up, yeah. And what we do is support people to feel good about themselves and to lean in, yeah.
And we're all pulling in the same direction, I think.
Yeah.
We all want that wall to just dissolve,
Yeah.
and everything to be inclusive and everybody to be treated equally. And I think that, you know, talking about it, communicating about it, you know, the work that PurpleSpace is doing, the work that we're doing is driving that in the right direction. And I live in hope for utopia.
Well, actually, I'm seeing more conversation about what the inclusivity, the whole inclusion agenda is brought is diversity of thoughts, yes, but diversity of capabilities. You know, we have so many talented people who were not given the platform to actually prove that they can do a job as effective as anybody else. Now we're talking to people about productivity. Forget about disability. It's like people have something to offer. If you give them the right support, the right tools, they will be awesome in their job. And I think that's where I think the next level of conversation is coming from. The likes of Accenture released a report recently about disability and how much contribution they can make and what obviously they're not being able to for the past. It's all about how do we make the organization more profitable and more productive? Universal inclusion, the same principle. So yeah, I think you've done an incredible job is mobilizing, energizing those groups to have the voice, and people are now taking it very seriously.
So my next question, networks and confidence. You talk about the power of networks and the benefits they can bring. Would you mind briefly discussing what are the key positives of us all growing and integrating an internal and external company network?
I would say three things, Anna. I mean, the most important benefit of, you know, setting up and investing, a company investing in an employee resource group or network is that of learning directly from their own people. You know, the old strapline that we used to use, we still use, you know, the nothing about us without
us.
Or as Yasmin over in Canada says, nothing without us, you know,
Yeah.
very clever.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, it's a really easy, elegant and streamlined way of a business tapping into the experiences, the lived experiences of employees with disability, and learning, choosing deliberately and with consciousness to actually learn from their own people. So whether that's about an improvement of a policy or a practice or a procedure, whether it's about buying new kit or gizmos or procuring out, for example, a new telephony service, you know, making sure that your employees who experience who have hearing impairments or who are deaf are brought into that conversation, or whether it's indeed products. You know, it's no coincidence that the work, say for example, Procter & Gamble have done. You remember they produced these new products where you've got Braille on the back of a shampoo.
Correct.
Bottle,
yes.
and
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And if you follow it through, the decision maker, Sam Latif, the amazing Sam Latif at Procter & Gamble, you know, she used to be an ERG leader, her experience visual impairment. So, you know, there are a number of incredibly talented employees with disability who are moving up, dare we say it, the greasy pole, and are actually making very important decisions, both strategically and on product based on their lived experience. So that's the first benefit, It just simply improves your business.
Yep.
I think secondly, it's about innovation as well.
Yep.
Again, the work that Microsoft are doing, the incredible Jenny Lay Flurry, they've got really smart individuals who again have history and form within employee resource groups and the belonging groups and the community groups that are now supporting the business to make important decisions there. So it's about learning, it's about innovation. And then thirdly, I would say the benefits are about tapping into real conversation. Not pretend conversation, but real conversation. Because although the three of us here, and hopefully our participants on the line today, we'll all look out and we've seen progress over time, but the reality is there's still work to do. And it's still the case that the most imaginative and vanguard of organizations, from time to time, they can get it in really, really wrong.
Yeah.
And what ERGs do, what employee resource groups and networks do, is that they find a test bed. They have a space, a real space, by which we can surface some of those things that are not being corrected. So they're huge value. They're used now universally. There's very few organizations of a certain size now who don't choose to have ERG. So they're such powerful instruments.
Do you find some organizations are much better doing this? And if so, what's that magic ingredient?
Yeah, I think some are, without a doubt. There's very few organizations that are very doubting of employee networks. I mean, when I started this journey 15 years ago, I came across a good number of employers that said, well, we've got a gender network, or we've got, a BAME network, or we've got LGBT plus network. But, we've tried to get a disability network, but disabled people don't talk to each other, do they? To which I went, try harder, try harder. But to answer your question, Nassim, yes, there are some employers that are better than others. The magic ingredient are those that have an open mind, that they recognize, what they have, what I call their door openers, rather than gatekeepers. So they might say, we think we need to set up an ERG, we want to throw some money, we want to invest in this network, we're not quite sure where we're going to land, and we're not sure where the challenges are and what the bad news story, but we're not afraid of that. So instead, we're going to support a small number to set up a steering group. We're going to give them some budget so they can join PurpleSpace, and we're going to throw a mentor at them. And if it does mean that we start to hear very difficult information about our services, and so be it, we will do that. So that's the magic, the gift of knowing that difficult information is still useful information.
You mentioned Jenny from Microsoft, which and she's one of our guests in the future session, and I'm so delighted she accepted. You mentioned the way she uses her employee group for positive, for getting actually a feedback about the products they design for the customers. Do you see many companies use that tactic as well, or are they just dealing with purely internal voices?
I think increasingly they're recognizing that a high-performing ERG that has good governance, that they're connected to the overarching strategy, the overarching disability strategy, that over time and imagination, they will have a very strong role in supporting the business to deliver its services. Of course, we deal with members, some of NHS trusts, police forces, pharmaceutical companies, a whole plethora of organisations where what I'd say the product is very different. If you're a government department, that's incredibly different if you're a pharmaceutical company based mostly in the States. But the reality is your outcomes as a business are nearly always improved by learning directly from your own people. So to come back to the Jennies of this world, increasingly employers are noticing that if you learn directly, quickly, and deliberately through the know-how of your own people, you're much more likely to deliver great accessible product and to be known for it. And to get profit from it.
Sure.
I'm sure it's not the original intention, but they find the profit follows the good practice. That is what we always find. When we famously case studied Lloyd's Banking Group. They didn't do it for making money, profit. They did the right thing. Mark Fisher says, I just want to make sure my workforce are the most productive and they have what they need to do their job better.
Yeah.
But quite honestly, the follow-up case study demonstrated the value they got out of that was unbelievable. I mean, like, we know that it was multiple of what they spent. So that is where we find that employers looking at these resources and actually taking notice and action, it does benefit them financially. And so, as you said, there's no longer business case study for it, but it should be highlighted that it is good, positive.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So the next question. You mentioned inner confidence, and how does confidence in an organization create positive impacts for both the business and the individual? How does it happen?
I think confidence gives us hope, doesn't it? It gives us a feeling of being expectant. You know, we know that in terms of at the micro level, you know, the individual level, and we know that in terms of the organizational level. You know, I'm a great fan of this semantics of disability confidence. It's, you know, it's a language, a concept that, of course, was originally conceived of by Susan Scott Parker, the founder of BDF. And we know, you know, it's language that's caught on around the world. The UK government has its scheme. And, you know, confidence for me, I think if you look up the dictionary definition of confidence, you know, is it an act? Is it a fact? Or is it a feeling? And the reality is it's all three. And I think for us, we focus on inner confidence because we know that the majority of our community are on a journey of continuing to build their confidence. Yeah. You know, as you know, 83, 86% of all employees with disability are individuals who acquire that human experience through the course of their working life. And that can rock our worlds. And so we have to learn the skills, the techniques and the tools to build that inner confidence. So yeah, I think it galvanizes us. It gives us hope. It gives us opportunity. It gives us strength. But it's incredibly important.
It gives us our power back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the creator of the Purple Light Up movement, which happens on the 3rd of December and is also International Day of Persons with Disabilities. That's an amazing achievement, Kate. I mean, I've watched this grow and grow and grow, and last year was absolutely amazing. It was all online and you crossed 5 continents, which was astounding. How does that make you feel when you see all these buildings light up?
I feel amazed, of course. I feel amazed. I
feel
apologetic.
Apologetic?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so much work. It's so much work.
Yes,
There's so many people. I mean, it's about joining into a movement. We used to call it a campaign, but of course, campaigns are tidy. They have a middle, they have a beginning, they have an end. Whereas this is a movement.
Yeah.
When I say I feel guilty, I jest with you. I turn to my team sometimes and say, you know, I'm sorry, I did not know what I did when I put that tweet out into the world. But mostly, I just feel amazed at the passion and the energy for individuals who are now on the same page of wanting to celebrate our contribution. You know, we very purposefully pivot Purple Light Up as a celebration of talent. You know, we know it's a topic: disability, mental ill health, neurodiversity, people of difference. You know, we're often badged, you know, as a challenge. It's often a narrative around deficit, or it's about welfare reform, or it's about poverty, or it's about sadness. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that very often our stories, or part of our stories, are about navigating really difficult life experiences. We know that, of course we know that. But equally, the story of disability is as much a story of hope and energy and talent and getting things done and delivering our pound of flesh. So Purple Light Up is a nod of respect to the United Nations International Day of Persons with Disability. So yeah, in answer to, I feel amazed. I feel, you know, deeply honoured to be part of something. And I say we provide the glow. The energy now is those individuals, particularly, you know, the young ERG leaders who are just building a better working world. So it's wonderful.
Well, you've got me wearing my true colours today.
Bang on brand.
So what next for purple light up? Is it going to be ultraviolet? I mean, you've got to be.
Yeah. What is the plan for this year?
Well, we'll remain in terms of wanting the contributors to do one of three things. So, you know, being part of Purple Light Up is one of three things. It's either you've got, you know, disability on the board agenda, so it's nodding to the work that Caroline so skillfully does at Valuable 500, or indeed public sector organisations who are now choosing to put disability on the board agenda, which is wonderful. Or it's about organisations who are celebrating their ERG and learning directly, or it's about companies who choose to be allies. And now, you know, when we see Niagara Falls go purple, or the, you know, the London Eye, Merlin Entertainments who made that happen. So this year, again, will be digital. We will have a slightly different 24-hour gig. So our continent partners across the world will be working with us to put a spotlight on the interactions between chief executives and ERG leaders.
Right.
So, yeah. It will be
okay, that's the spotlight. So it really is bringing the leaders into the network leaders, right? That'll be interesting.
Which empire was it that the sun never set in? It's the PurpleSpace. That's where you.
Empire of the sun.
You have created an empire that the sun will never set. Thank you for that, Kate. I mean, it's an amazing. It was an amazing experience to be part of it. And in fact, the year before also, we started getting involved and doing.
That was the taxi.
Well, it was just unbelievable how creative you were to energize people on that day. And all credit to you. You've definitely given people a purpose.
I've got a question for you.
That is.
Yeah. Why purple?
Great question. We don't know the answer.
You don't?
When we set up, so if you look at when we were set up in 2015, and we launched in 2015, and we were launched on the back of the book that I wrote, Secrets and Big News. And when we were researching the book, because that involved 2,500 disabled people, we started to look at mechanisms and tools and techniques for sometimes getting around what is a language, a problem around semantics. You know, as we know, the word disability, even those of us who are very politicized and feel deeply comfortable with being referred to as a disabled woman, for example, I have no problems with that at all. But the reality is, we know that it's a word that not everybody feels comfortable with, and they don't want to be branded. So we were trying to find ways of making it easier for people to be okay about the experience of disability without having to wear that word. And colour, you know, the LGBT plus community have so skillfully used the rainbow flag as emblematic. So we did a bit of research. Purple was starting to become popular. We made it famous.
No, you did
totally.
That, exactly. Absolutely. But I think, again, galvanizing, focusing on one, something like a color purple, that was a very clever strategy. Because, you know, you're not talking about disability, you're not talking about unfair treatment, you don't talk about poverty. It's all about, this is what we can do to make the world a better place. And disability happens to be the conversation. I always said that disability is not what defines people. It's the condition might affect them, but disability is something we impose on people. So take away the barriers, and they're not disabled.
That's absolutely right.
When I said that if you set a benchmark for disability, like on IQ, I'd be on a special needs category compared to autistic person who could be way up there. So I'm not sure who the disabled person would be if they start recategorizing the world as how it should be. And but anyway, I think you've done a tremendous work on this brand, and it is definitely a brand. And
it hasn't finished yet.
Oh no, absolutely.
We'll run and run. Yeah.
Well, as long as it, you know, as long as we're all together and we're doing great things, then that wall, as I say, is going to evaporate and it's going to be no more. And so we have you to thank for that hugely. I know you're very humble and very gracious, but you are, yes, the leader.
but not all walls are bad. Sometimes you have walls to write things on them.
True.
Yeah. So
True.
we were going to keep this wall for writing great stories about success, resilience, and all the good things that over the past 30 years leaders like you have achieved. And I'm really absolutely delighted that you managed to share your life story. But I mean, Anna, you've got 2 more questions before we go to
well,
Q&A?
I've got lots of questions, but I knew that there was no way that we'd get through them all. But I would like Kate just to quickly talk about Virtually Purple.
Yes. So Virtually Purple was a publication that we produced. And it really is about the value of social media in terms of driving conversation and positive change. We all know, and social media can bring challenge, but ultimately I believe it is used by good people as a force for good. I choose deliberately to believe that. And Virtually Purple was really designed as a way to support ERG leaders to use social media to be out and loud and proud about the work that they're doing. We just blown away by the most incredible leaders across our membership. As I say, they all have day jobs, so they're doing this at the side of their desk, and they're doing it in their voluntary time, and some of them work until midnight and beyond to support the build and the creation of these incredible communities. And I include our allies in that. It's not just exclusive networks for disabled people, it includes our allies. So Virtually Purple was a publication really to support people to think about how you can use social media as a force for good. So
it's a tool. It's a tool.
Absolutely.
A toolkit. Okay.
Yep. I mean, lots of our members use Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook for Business. And I'd actively encourage anyone who wants to make a difference in this space to use those social media mechanisms to deliver real and honest stories about how they navigate work, because that's how we learn. We learn from the great role models, and this series that you're doing, all those you've got on the panel, incredible women. I exclude myself from that, but we're all learning from each other, and I think the employees community are really well placed now to learn from each other. All of the Purple confidence tools that are now coming down the track for us, originally funded and supported by you. We can't not thank you enough, because it set off a wave of conversations about how we get in at work, how we get on at work, and then ultimately how we support those behind us. So social media.
We believed in you.
I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a good question. You've met so many inspirational leaders. What makes a good leader when it comes to this area?
I suppose what makes a great leader, leadership is an act of servitude. I think it's about recognizing that leadership is sometimes about doing new things or risky things or brave things or not been done things before, and all of that is a truth. But ultimately, I choose to believe that good leadership is ultimately an act of servitude. It's about recognizing a job of work needs to be done, and sometimes that job of work can be unpopular, or at least remnants of the task means that you have to leave others who have old-fashioned perhaps or less modern ideas aside. So we're forever learning. I constantly read and listen to podcasts of some of the great leaders that are out there, and it is just an act of servitude ultimately.
But the mystery to me, I want to ask you, you have to answer this one. We've looked around trying to find inspirational leaders in our disability sector, and we found all being women. What makes women such great leaders in this area?
Nash, you can't ask that question.
Oh my God. I'm going to fail at the last hurdle.
No.
Well, I will share with you. I shared with you earlier many. I'll leave the name aside because that's unfair. Because the point he made was well founded. So, 20 years ago, a great friend and colleague, a mentor. I remember him saying, you know, that those people who are leading the disability movement are men, and I remember thinking then, I'm not so sure. In that, you know, we deliver our leadership in different ways. And yes, there are characteristics that women bring to the party, as do men. And yeah, maybe now is our time, NASA. Maybe there's something about the experience of disability that requires conversation. And maybe it requires sometimes quite sophisticated unveiling of some of the difficult, you know, demons that we have in ourselves. Because, you know, I'm a bit long in the tooth now. I acquired my impairment at 15. It rocked my world, and it belittled my confidence. And yet over the years, over the decades, I have built in a confidence. But I see often, dare I say, I don't want to stereotype, but often women are more able and or comfortable to share difficult information and be a little more vulnerable and to share difficult truths about our lives. And heck, you know, disability is of course a topic that does require you, I think, sometimes to display a little bit of vulnerability in order to get what you need. So whether that's a workplace adjustment or your promotion, sometimes you have to share a little bit of vulnerability in order to secure a workplace adjustment, and that's not easy, and you've got to learn it. So I think that's why the leadership of women is often useful and helpful right now.
So do you think they've gained confidence over the past few years, or are they being given more recognition? Because we see great leaders in businesses now, very successful companies run by women, but this is intersectionality. I mean, you know, they seem to be resilient, they seem to be creative. So which one is it? Confidence?
I think it's both. Without fudging it, Nash, I think it's both. You know, it is about recognizing the great leaders. Some of that is by, you know, you think about the gender pay gap, all of the work that has been done to improve that, the work now to ensure boards, for example, have a proportion of women talent on those boards. So some of those have-tos then lead to greater recognition. But it's also about, I suppose, learning a few things along the way. You know, Sheryl Sandberg's book, you know, at Facebook, the chief operating officer, you know, leaning. It was an interesting book. Some people loved it, some people hated it. What I chose to do is notice some of the really rich value, because she didn't shy away from calling out some of the institutional barriers that impact the lives of women in the working world. But equally, she didn't shy away from holding up a mirror to our lives and invited us to ask the question, are there any things that we sometimes do to self-limit our own behaviours and truths? So it's a bit of both, I think, NASA, if I haven't fudged it, if I can be so bold.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to move on to the Q&A now. I don't know if you've got a call to action that you want to leave everybody with, or you want to do that at the end after the Q&A. That's entirely up to you. We'll do it right at the end. So questions. We have Monica Tsang. She's asked, do employees have to disclose their disabilities to their workplace in order to access the company linked platform? So the network, do they have to disclose their disabilities in order to access the company linked network?
I suppose the short answer is no. You know, it's a personal decision as to whether one chooses to share information about one's disability or mental ill health or experience of neurodiversity. And, you know, we're all on our journey of that, and it's not a have to. I think, you know, I do invite people to think about some of the values of doing that, because it can often support us to be who we are in the context of work. Certainly, if you want to access a workplace adjustment, then yes, of course, you do have to share that.
But that's in confidence anyway.
That's in confidence, exactly, Anna. So, you know, a lot of the networks that we work with are what we call inclusive networks, and they include incredible allies. So no, one doesn't have to badge oneself with that definition if it's something you don't feel comfortable about. The majority of networks and resource groups are inclusive.
Right. We have a question from Annie Catherine Vagness, and she says, we might be more effective from working from home, but what about the psychological aspect with the lack of social contact, and especially for people maybe not being as social in general as the average population? So what was the question? Yeah, what's the psychological aspect?
Yeah, I think for some of us it's been huge, hasn't it? And for a very long and protracted time. And for the majority of people, from time to time, the psychological impact of COVID has been huge. So, you know, it's all about us. I think we're relearning. I think we're learning some behaviours new for the first time. I think every employer, whether you are huge and a global multinational, or whether you're a small organisation, a social business like PurpleSpace, you know, it's incumbent on all of us to think differently about the new remote working practices, because it's so intense. You know, I listened to one incredible leader in an ICT firm, global footprint, and the chief executive said, I don't really care if you want to go for a walk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and that walk takes you 2 hours, and then you come back and you do the rest of your work between 7 and 9.
Yep.
Not do I care, I don't need to know it. I just need you to know that I trust you. That's all I need to know. So I think
very good point.
Yeah,
yeah, NASA does that. NASA's very good.
We find that the trust element is incredibly powerful and productive. If you don't, then you'll be watching your back every 5 minutes, thinking they're not doing their job, and make sure they don't. But what's PurpleSpace's plan for the groups for return to work? How are you helping people getting back to work eventually?
Yeah, we're doing a huge project which I mentioned, Purple Confidence, and as part of that we are delivering 18 publications, helpful to know. So they're impairment specific. One of them is to support people who may be experiencing long COVID and or the impact of COVID on their lives as they return to work. So there's going to be some really helpful resource there. The other thing that we're doing, we work to 4 key working groups. And one of them is headed up by David Caldwell, our ambassador, who's leading our working group on the impact of ERGs. And much of the work that our ERGs are now doing are supporting their businesses to improve the remote working policy. So it's about sharing best practice across the membership and supporting our membership to see what other companies are doing to help people to work differently and better within remote policies. Because
when's that coming out?
The guides will be coming out from the summer onwards. So I don't know for sure that date, but so from the summer onwards through to the end of November, they'll be out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have another question from Emil Epelane. What are the post-pandemic opportunities and potential concerns for disabled people?
Yeah, as I say, there's pros and cons. I think, you know, obviously everybody's now having their vaccines. We have to be optimistic that our governments, wherever we live, hopefully are doing the right thing in the right way when it comes to the easing of lockdown measures. Different organisations, depending on what one's trade is, are all introducing different remote working policies. For disabled people, of course, there's going to be a tranche of us who will choose or would like not ever to go back into an office or a building. I would imagine that the majority of employers will notice in the round, you know, those employees who want to continue to have flexibility by working from home. I can see your hand is up, Anna. I'm saying nothing, Asa, but I think you've got some votes there.
Well, I've trebled, quadrupled my productivity. I'm so happy working in my little office. Yeah. I don't want to go back to the office. I don't think NASA does either. Do you?
Absolutely. I've decided I'm staying home. They need to replace me. They put an effigy of me in the office just to keep the place, you know. So no, I'm happy staying here. And I think we are running out of time. It's to the end of the hour.
I do have one really, yes, I know we've got 3 minutes, but I've just got one from Mia Hurst, and she says, how did you overcome the stigma of being a woman who has a disability?
Oh, great question. Can we go offline and talk till midnight? The short, how did I overcome? I suppose I've often said this. I've said this on platforms. I've said this in books. My experience of disability and ill health trumped my experience of being a woman, if that makes sense. So the so-called disadvantage that I experienced, you know, in the very early days of being a disabled woman, eclipsed that of being a woman. So, you know, but the reality is, irrespective of the, I suppose, the intersectionality, you know, we'd have different aspects of being different within our lives. For me, I just got on with it.
Yeah.
I knew that disability
It's an attitude.
Yeah. I choose, you know, we all have different beliefs. My belief is that I've got one chance in this world, and so I'm going to use it wisely. So before my lights go out, I've got a lot to do. That's what I say. So yeah, I just got on with it.
Wouldn't you say that it made you a better person than you would have been if you didn't have that challenge?
I simply don't know. And you know, after many years, I know that I don't care, if that makes sense. Yeah, because, you know, although if I was pushed and was asked, would I have preferred to have lived without arthritis? I suppose if I thought deeply about it, I'm likely to conclude that living life without arthritis would have brought less pain, less discomfort, and less challenge. But have I learned a few things along the way? Have I learned about myself and what it means to be human? Have I learned about others and what it means to give love and kindness?
Yeah.
Heck yes. And so I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah.
So we're wrapping up. We've got literally 30 seconds. Call to action. I mean, we're sending out all your resources on a page with your bio and all the links and all the social media, everything. But what's the call to action?
I'd say two things, Anna. I mean, lastly, thank you so much for this. Good luck with the series. I think you are superstars, and we cannot thank you enough for the support that you've offered and continue to offer PurpleSpace. So thank you, thank you. Two calls for action. One, if you have a story to share it. You know, the world changes in terms of learning and listening to others. And so however small you feel your story is around navigating a disability or difference, share your story, the things that you have learned and the things that you have learned from others. Because, you know, if your one story changes the life of one other human being, then how lovely is that? Yep. And the second call to action was, it's a call out for our allies, our purple allies around the world, the line managers, the D&I professionals, chief executives, the other stakeholders in the system who choose to notice that it's about justice. All of this is about justice. And they are, you know, if you want to be an ally, if you are an ally, then feel good about that, because you're needed and you're wanted, and do one great thing a year as an ally to make a difference in the world. So those are my
calls to action. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kate.
Is there one question we didn't ask you that you wanted us to ask you and the world would benefit from?
Oh, look, one question. Nasa, you can take me for lunch sometime.
I will
so
do.
your question is, where would you like to go for lunch in real time?
You're on. You're on. Our first out of lockdown, you're on for lunch. Again, thank you very much, Kate.
You've been
a wonderful guest. I mean, the superstar being a guest is unusual to have, but I'm so delighted, so privileged. Thank you again for your time. And thank you all, everyone who attended today. I know there was a parallel party going on with the BDF
the BDF thing's going on,
which we will next time we'll coordinate. But thank you again, Kate, and lovely to see you, and God bless.
Huge pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.